Friends, welcome to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. Both before Ingrid Jameson came to work and at various stages of her career, she passed a number of personality tests. Some of them were supposed to tell her which job she was best suited for, while others were supposed to determine which personality traits she possessed were desirable or needed to be improved. She consistently received high marks when it came to determination, a sense of fairness, and punctuality. In addition, she was constantly told that she was too impetuous, stubborn, and emotional. She disagreed with a number of negative assessments. Perhaps this indicated that she was actually stubborn and ignored them. Although the results of these tests probably prevented her from getting 2 or 3 jobs, in the end she chose a profession that was quite suitable for her. One of the qualities Ingrid may have lacked was intuition. It struck a chord with her during her first marriage. Her husband John turned out to be a womanizer and apparently misled her for at least 2 years. Despite the fact that she initiated the divorce, she was emotionally depressed by her divorce and eventually became angry because she did not receive any reward for his infidelity. She always regretted that she had never been able to take proper revenge on this asshole. Ingrid was lucky to meet someone who had the same situation as her, who treated her with understanding and to whom she felt a strong physical attraction. His name is Ben. Ben is smart, energetic, kind, and a great lover. During their first contact, about a month after their first meeting, he brought it down to 4 points. She had never had multiple moments in one session before. Since he possessed all the qualities that Ingrid found desirable in a man, despite her unsuccessful first experience, she wanted to marry him after talking with him for only about 4 months. Ben claimed that in his first marriage he was burned as badly as Ingrid, although he no longer seemed preoccupied with seeking revenge on his ex-wife and possessed patience and contemplation as important personality traits. So he tempered her ardor, and it took a whole year after they started dating before he asked her to marry him. He was 29 and she was 30 when they got married. He intended to throw her a 30th birthday party, but wedding plans got in the way, and that ruined what was supposed to be a surprise. Ingrid gave Ben a pleasant, though not unexpected holiday when he turned 30 10 months after her birthday. 4 years after they got married, Ben and Ingrid had 2 children, a boy and a girl, and these children are a delight for both of them. Ingrid sees a reflection of her personality in her son, which sometimes pisses her off, but sometimes makes her laugh, while her daughter has much more of Ben. Both children look like the perfect combination of Ingrid and Ben's looks. Ingrid and Ben have quite a few good friends in the suburbs where they live, and their best friends, Bill and Pamela, live just across the street from them. Bill is 4 days older than Ingrid, and Pamela is a couple of months younger than Ben. Bill and Pam's children are almost the same age as Ingrid and Ben's children, and the couples got along as soon as they met. They became best friends about a year after Ingrid and Ben got married, and have remained so for most of the 9 years since. Couples sometimes laugh that Bill should have married Ingrid and Pamela should have married Ben because of their characters. Bill is as impulsive, impatient, and reckless as Ingrid, while Pamela is as much a stabilizing force in their marriage as Ben is in his. In fact, because of their individual characteristics, it would probably be a disaster for a rational outsider if they switched spouses, something that Ben, Pamela, and Ingrid at least never thought about, even jokingly, although Bill sometimes seems too grateful. Bill and Ingrid's 40th birthday was approaching. At some point, the 4 of them decided to go on a cruise to celebrate together. However, their schedules just didn't match up. So Ben and Ingrid agreed on a 4-day trip without children about 2 weeks after her birthday, and Bill and Pam seemed set for a week-long trip, also without children about a month after Bill's birthday. Much to Ingrid's surprise, the usually punctual Ben did not come home at his usual time after work on Wednesday evening. Ingrid called on his iPhone, but he didn't answer, which was also unusual. Ingrid then called Bill and Pam at home to see if Bill, Ben's best friend, knew where he was. Bill answered. "Hi, Bill. How are you?" Ingrid chuckled when he answered. "Really bad. I have to worry about getting it wet when I'm standing at the urinal," he chuckled back. "You're the biggest asshole I've ever met." "I do not know how Pam tolerates you," she replied, this time really laughing. "You're not the only one who has this question," he laughed back. "Listen, Bill. The reason for my call is that I can't get through to Ben and he's half an hour late. You haven't heard about traffic jams, have you?" "No. Actually, as you know, I take almost the same route home as him for 3/4 of our trips to work, and traffic was unusually busy today." It's weird, but I was just going to call you to see if you had Pam, because she was supposed to be home 45 minutes ago." "Maybe they're having an illicit affair," Ingrid giggled. "There's only one way to find out," he chuckled. "All four of us have iPhones with locator apps, so we can check where their phones are." In fact, he was right. Ingrid used this feature only once, about 9 months ago, and forgot about it. "Are you so paranoid that you're constantly checking on Pam?" Ingrid giggled. "Hell no, I've never used it, but I know I can figure it out. Just out of interest, why don't we both do it and call each other as soon as we do?" Bill suggested. "That's fine with me," Ingrid replied and hung up. She was surprised at how easy it turned out to be to use the app. She remembered that it was more complicated. When using the app, Ingrid saw a gray dot on the map shown on her iPhone screen, indicating the last location where Ben's iPhone was located before disconnecting. The gray dot was near the intersection of Grand Street and 55th Street, in a place Ingrid didn't know, but knew it was about halfway between Ben's office and his house. She called Bill back. "Hi, dude," she greeted him as soon as he picked up the phone after the second ring. "I know where his phone was disconnected. How do you know it's off?" he asked. "Because the point on the map is marked in gray. If it was green, it would be on," she replied, feeling like a real tech guy. "Okay, let's see. I have a little problem. Let me hang up the landline phone for a second," he replied. After about a minute, it turned on again. "Eureka, I also noticed a gray dot on the corner of Grand and 54th, about a kilometer from Pam's office." For Ingrid, it was a "oh shit" moment. She was silent long enough for Bill to ask, "Are you still here, Ingrid?" Yes, I'm here, Bill." "The last time Ben's phone was disconnected was at the corner of 55th and Grand Streets," she growled rather than said. Now it was Bill's turn to shut up. "What the hell is that?" Those were his first words. "If these bastards are cheating on us, they're going to pay a lot," Ingrid almost shouted into the phone. "You got it right," he growled back. "We can't tell them about our suspicions until we investigate further," he said with a rare display of patience, or it was just quick-wittedness. "However, I am afraid that we will find that this is exactly what it seems," he continued. "Let's do a little research. I'll try to find out what's next to rooms 54 and 55 on Grand Street and check if there are any unusual expenses. You should also look for unusual payments and see if you can talk to someone at Pam's office. I know they always work late there, and try to find out when she left work," Ingrid impulsively blurted out. "Got it," Bill said, and hung up. Ingrid immediately launched a Google Maps search to find out if there were any interesting buildings near 55th Street and Grand Street. After about 10 minutes of searching, she found one of them, the Hilton Hotel, at 5,459 grand. Just at that moment, the children burst into the office who had a small crisis, so she made sure to turn off the computer and then took care of them. She would have been fuming and would not have been able to communicate properly with Ben when he returned home if she had not been distracted by the children. After Ingrid had dealt with the crisis, she cooked dinner, although Ben was supposed to cook, and did her best to calm down. In fact, she was more interested in killing Ben than talking to him when he was finally 70 minutes late. But by suppressing her impulsivity and showing the best self-control in the last 10 years, she was able to pass off her obvious concern for problems with children. "Hi, honey. I'm really sorry I'm late," were Ben's first words as he timidly entered the house through the garage. "It smells delicious. I'll cook you dinner the next 3 times when you're tired," he said, hugging Ingrid and kissing her on the cheek. "Why is it so late?" "What is it?" she asked, trying to make her voice sound casual. "The traffic jams were terrible. There was an accident after which I got a hole. I had greasy hands, so I went to the nearest fast food restaurant and washed them so the dirt wouldn't get into the car or the house," he said. Obviously, this is a lie, Ingrid flashed through her mind, but she continued to suppress the desire to kill him. During dinner, Ben noticed that Ingrid was upset, but when she explained to him that she had a little crisis with the children and lied that she was a little late and had to pick them up a little later, he bought it. Ingrid went to bed early complaining of a migraine, and she wasn't lying. The information in the locator app, the location of the Hilton Hotel, and his lies actually caused her to have a mild migraine, which, fortunately, she took medication to get rid of before she became debilitating. Mediation also helped her fall asleep, and she needed help with that. Fortunately, Ingrid was able to behave mostly normally the next morning. After Ben left for work when she was driving the kids to school, she called work and asked for half a day off. Then, after dropping the children off, she returned home. Ben handled most of the finances, but Ingrid thought she knew where he kept the accounts, as well as information about the financial websites he visited and passwords to them. She found what she needed without much difficulty. It was not locked. Ingrid didn't notice anything suspicious either in the statements on the two main credit cards or in their checkbook. However, they had an American Express card, which was usually used only by Ben. She checked the last few statements in this regard and found several unusual expenses for wine and flowers, as well as for the Hilton Hotel. The amount spent on the Hilton seemed too high for her to stay in a hotel for one night, or more likely for the afternoon. But on the other hand, she did not know how much the rooms cost there. She went online and saw that yesterday there was also a bill for accommodation at the Hilton Hotel. She called the phone number listed on the online statement, and eventually was able to confirm that the cost of staying at the Hilton Hotel in their beautiful city was $5,459,000. Then Ingrid looked at the bill for Ben's personal mobile phone. Although individual calls were not listed, there was a website where they could be found. She found Ben's password to this website, logged in, and found at least 24 calls to Pam's cell phone in the last 2 months. A couple of times late at night or early in the morning. Ingrid was furious. She printed or copied the information she needed, then found Bill's mobile phone number in Ben's papers, which she had not saved in her iPhone. Bill answered right away. "What did you find out?" Ingrid blurted out. "It looks suspicious. The old credit card at the Hilton Hotel has been charged funds that I didn't know about, and several others that I don't know about. When I called Pam's office yesterday, one of her colleagues was there and said that Pam left around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and when she returned home, she lied about heavy traffic and an accident," he replied hoarsely. Then Ingrid told him what she had discovered. "They tricked us, the traitorous bastards," he shouted. "Let's think about what we should do," Ingrid replied in a low, angry voice. "And I want to do a little more investigation." Ingrid and Bill agreed that they would meet on Saturday morning while Ben and Pam were working with the children in the indoor public pool and share any other information they had. Shortly before noon, Ingrid called Ben from her office. "He's gone to lunch. You just missed him," his secretary sang. "Should I tell Mr. Jameson that you called?" "What is it?" she asked. "No, nothing important. I'll just see him tonight," Ingrid replied. Then she called Pam's office, got the same information and the same answer. "Too many coincidences," she swore under her breath as she headed for the Hilton Hotel on Grand Street. The Hilton Hotel was quite far from her office, so Ingrid didn't think she would get ahead of them there. But as she drove through the open parking lot, she saw both of their cars with personal license plates. Ingrid parked on the street 2 blocks from the hotel in a direction that Pam and Ben would not have gone when leaving the hotel. Ingrid took her camera and waited in a cafe opposite the main entrance to the hotel, through the door of which they had to leave in order to easily get to their cars. Half an hour later, it must have been love in a hurry, Ingrid thought. Ben and Pam left the Hilton Hotel, as brave as possible, laughing at something. Ingrid took some good pictures, especially when Ben touched Pam's arm several times as they headed to their cars. They kissed each other on the lips as Ben opened the car door for Pam and waved after her as she drove away. He then got into his car and drove in the direction of his office, but stopped at a fast food restaurant while still in Ingrid's line of sight. Maybe he hasn't had enough of Pam, she grumbled to herself. On Saturday morning, Bill and Ingrid insisted that Ben and Pam take the children to the pool. They didn't resist. Then Bill and Ingrid met in a cafe on the opposite side of the city from the pool. Bill and Ingrid were furious when they exchanged information. They were convinced that their spouses were cheating on them. Ingrid and Bill had no other logical explanation. "I want revenge," Ingrid growled. "I didn't get it during my last marriage, but this time I will." "Are you going to divorce him?" Bill asked her. "It depends on how successful my revenge is and how Ben reacts to it." "I would have left him immediately if it wasn't for the kids. I might get over it if he pays a fair price, but I'm afraid Pam and I aren't friends anymore." "What about you, Bill?" Bill immediately impulsively blurted out in response, "I feel the same way, damn it." "Then what are we going to do to get revenge?" Ingrid asked. "Since I broke up with Ben as a friend and you broke up with Pam, we're not going to communicate as families anymore. What I recommend is to arrange a session, record it on tape, and show it to them at the appropriate moment, demanding further permission in addition to our love and revenge." "Yes, damn it," Ingrid replied in her usual impetuous rage. "I have a good friend who has a studio just a couple of kilometers away. I'm sure he'll let me use it tomorrow when he doesn't have any business. Bill grinned. Ingrid got information from him about the location of the studio, and they agreed to meet on Sunday at 14 o'clock. Ben was supposed to be watching football, and Pam was talking about taking the kids to visit her sister, so it probably shouldn't have aroused suspicion. On Saturday evening, Ingrid had another migraine, this time completely fake. "Darling, I hope you'll be all right next Saturday night," Ben said anxiously. "Don't forget that we're going to have dinner with your parents, and we already have Mrs. Jensen, who lives down the street and is ready to keep the children at her place for the night." "I'll be fine by next weekend, don't worry," Ingrid replied with a concern that matched the headache. When Sunday afternoon came, Ingrid, although still angry, was no longer as sure of her revenge as she had been the day before. However, after checking Ben's cell phone call list again and seeing another call from Pam, she drank about 6 sips of bourbon and ran out of the house around 1:30 p.m., shouting to Ben that she needed to do some shopping. When Ingrid arrived at the studio, Bill, excited as a little child at Christmas, was already setting up a digital video camera. "Hi, girl," he chirped, giving Ingrid a quick kiss on the lips. "I hope you're as excited as I am." "Maybe excited isn't the right word," Ingrid replied awkwardly. "But it's going to happen. That bastard Ben will pay for his betrayal," she snapped. She saw a bottle of liquid courage on the table. "Do you mind if I take a sip?" "What is it?" she asked. "That's what he's for," Bill grinned, continuing to play with the camera. Ingrid took 3 sips of alcohol before Bill finished preparing, and this, combined with the 6 sips she had at home and her anger at Ben, prepared her for a grand revenge. For Bill, it was almost a dream come true. "I wouldn't mind if Pam made love to Ben, if I could regularly uncork this barrel," he thought to himself, enthusiastically removing Ingrid's blouse and bra, exposing breasts that, in his opinion, were unprecedented for a 40-year-old woman. Kneeling down, Ingrid looked directly into the camera and muttered, "I hope Pam makes it nice the same way I do at Bill's." Soon Ingrid made Bill groan loudly, and he also looked at the camera, saying, "Thank you, Ben, for cheating. Oh, damn, it feels good." Ingrid obeyed, getting on all fours on a mat on the studio floor and turning to face the camera. "I hope you used Pam the same way Bill is going to use me, you fool, Ben, eh?" she muttered, barely managing to utter the words. Bill seemed to be over the moon without any pretense when he used Ingrid. Ingrid didn't have to pretend anymore either. She was disappointed that she didn't reach the moment at the same time as him, but it was still very, very pleasant, and she imitated this moment perfectly. Ingrid saw an opportunity to further humiliate her cheating fool husband. "Are you ready for the next round?" Bill asked with a grin as she turned away from the camera. "What we've done is enough to get our message across," Ingrid sighed. "Yes, but it was also fun," Bill retorted, still smiling. "Of course it was fun," Ingrid said, forcing a smile. "But I have to get back. How do we get copies of the digital video we shot now?" "My buddy has a DVD recorder," Bill said, getting to his feet. While Ingrid was getting dressed, Bill played with the recorder and recorded a DVD for Ingrid and another for himself. "Make sure you remove the original from the camera," Ingrid warned. "Oh yes," Bill replied. After 10 minutes of fuss, Bill and Ingrid came to the conclusion that the original no longer exists. "So what's your plan to show the DVD to Ben?" Bill asked, getting dressed. "We're going out with my parents on Saturday night, and the kids will be at the babysitter's house starting at about 5:30. I think I'll show him this right before I go out," Ingrid replied with a malicious smile. "Wow, that's weird," Bill said. "And what are you going to do? The guy with the ideas? I'm sure I don't want you to reveal your cards until I show Ben," Ingrid replied, crossing her arms over her chest. While Bill was buckling his seatbelt, the gears were turning in his head. After a long pause, he said, "Actually, there is some kind of evil genius in your plan. The kids are gone. He has to come up with an excuse. If he leaves for the evening, you have somewhere to go, even if he refuses to meet with you. Maybe I'll do the same." "Are you and Pam going out on Saturday night too?" Yes, we are leaving, and the children are also leaving for the night." "What about your planned birthday trip?" Bill asked. "I'll tell Ben when I show him the video to cancel the meeting. He will have to break up with Pam and do everything in his power to regain my trust. Otherwise, I will leave the family." Bill grinned again. "Sounds like a plan," he chuckled. Ingrid spent the next week on nothing but self-satisfaction and adrenaline. She was so smug and charged that she even used Ben twice, using him as a dildo for her own pleasure and not carrying him with her. However, she was a little surprised at how pleased Ben seemed after these two meetings. When he hugged her, she smiled to herself, imagining how her revenge would be accomplished. It was Saturday evening. Ben got dressed and took the children to the babysitter for the night. When he returned, Ingrid, to his surprise, was already dressed, a good half-hour before they had to leave. It was hard to tell from her expression. "Are you ready to go?" Ben asked. "Sort of," she replied. "What does this mean?" Ben was completely baffled. "Let's talk. We'll sit in the living room watching TV," she giggled. Ben was even more puzzled. While he was sitting, Ingrid was pacing back and forth. "It's funny that your iPhone app put you in the same hotel as Pam at the same time, Benny boy. That's what made Bill and me think about your cheating," she began. "What the hell are you talking about?" Ben asked sharply. "Just shut the fuck up and listen," Ingrid screamed with an expression bordering on hysteria. Ben folded his arms and decided that he just needed to listen a little and suppress his feelings so that Ingrid wouldn't freak out. Ingrid argued with Ben for the next 10 minutes, presenting as a closing argument all the evidence she had of Ben and Pam's adultery. Suddenly, her frantic irritation was replaced by an almost quiet one. "I've always regretted that I didn't get back at John when he cheated on me. It hasn't happened to you and it won't happen to you, asshole," she said with eerie calm. She turned on the DVD player with the remote control, and her fest with Bill played out in vivid color. Ben winced and groaned as he watched the video. After Ingrid's fake moment, he too suddenly plunged into an eerie serenity. When Ingrid turned off the DVD, she gathered all the sarcasm she could muster and said, "Let's go have dinner with my parents, darling. Can you think of a way to make amends so that I don't have to repeat the time I spent with Bill? Or do you want me to make love to him as often as you did with Pam?" Ingrid took her purse and headed to the garage. To her surprise, Ben did not refuse dinner, but got behind the wheel and drove off. The trip was cold. Ben didn't say two words, no matter what Ingrid said or asked, until she screamed, "This is not the way to get to Portofino. Your father called after lunch and changed the location of the dinner." Ingrid was furious when Ben pulled into the parking lot of the Hilton Hotel on Grand Street. "What kind of crazy jerk are you, Ben?" she growled. "Are you taking me to your little palace of adultery?" Ben opened the passenger side door for her. "I guarantee your parents are at the hotel," he said, holding back his emotions. "Here are the car keys. If they're not there, just leave and leave me here." "With your little love toy?" Ingrid growled, snatching the keys from Ben's hands and rushing to the hotel entrance. Ben locked the car and followed her, pulling out his cell phone as he went and quickly dialing a number. When they entered the lobby, he led Ingrid to the dance hall in the wing to the right of the reception desk and dragged her along, despite her protests. "Where the hell are you taking me?" When Ben opened the door to the C dance hall and literally pushed Ingrid inside, dozens of people shouted surprise under a 10-meter banner, "Happy Ingrid and Bill's 40th birthday," and then began singing Happy Birthday. Ingrid was shocked. With lightning speed, thoughts flashed through her head. Is that why Ben and Pam were meeting at the hotel? So that's why credit card hotel fees were so high for dates? Is that why Ben called Pam so often just in the last 2 months? Damn it. Ingrid's parents, siblings, cousins, co-workers, and friends surrounded her. She started crying. They thought it was for joy. They were wrong. It was because of guilt, an overwhelming sense of guilt. The situation was repeated when one of their neighbors got a call on her cell phone and she silenced everyone. "Bill and Pam are coming right now," she said. Bill looked as stunned by the crowd's shouts of surprise and their rendition of Happy Birthday as Ingrid. The evening went on as usual, and all Ingrid's relatives and friends talked about what a small role they had played in helping Pam and Ben organize a joint birthday party, and the DJ performed Bill and Ingrid's favorite dance songs and showed short slideshows telling about the life of Ingrid and Bill since childhood and before the birth of their children, shown on the big screen at the end of the ballroom. Everyone seemed to be having a good time. No one either noticed or paid attention to the fact that Pam and Ben did not toast their spouses after the end of the slideshow. Ingrid's dad and Bill's mom said a few words each, the guests toasted, and then returned to the fun. Several cool gifts were sent out, a lot of wine was drunk, and some guests wove flowers into their hair that decorated the buffet tables. All in all, it looked like they had a great time. Only a truly astute person would have noticed that Ingrid, Ben, Pam, and Bill did not interact with each other in any way. None of the honored guests danced a single dance with their spouse, although Pam and Ben did dance a couple of dances, but with a facial expression that looked more like a frown than a smile. The road back to the Jameson house was even colder than the previous one. Several times, a sobbing Ingrid began to say, "I'm so sorry that I jumped to conclusions, dear." Her words met Ben's icy gaze. Finally, after about the 10th chorus, he snapped, "You couldn't tell me about your wonderful job as a detective, could you? You had to be impulsive, Ingrid, and take rash actions without thinking it through properly, and worst of all, without contacting anyone." "Well, fuck you and your bastard friend." When they returned home, Ben stormed into the guest room, leaving Ingrid sobbing in the living room. On Sunday morning, Ingrid called her parents to thank them for participating in the surprise party and to ask them to pick up the children from the babysitter, so Ben and I can celebrate a little more together. Of course, what she really needed was to somehow get Ben to talk to her, to forgive her, to tell her what she could do to make things right. After ignoring her initial pleas and learning that the children would not return until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Ben finally agreed to listen to Ingrid as she lay face down on the kitchen floor, hugging his legs and sobbing, and he tried to eat some cold cereal for breakfast. "Okay, tell me," he finally ordered, lifting her off the floor, putting her on a chair and shaking her. "Ben, I'm so sorry," she began. "Yes, you said that last night. However, that didn't make you give up on that asshole Bill, did it?" he snapped. After crying a little more, Ingrid pulled herself together. "What can I do to fix it?" "What is it?" she asked. "Anything." "I don't think you mean anything," he retorted. "Yes, anything. I feel so shitty not trusting you, not communicating with you, assuming the worst when you were trying to do something wonderful, kind, loving for me. Please, Ben, tell me, what can I do?" "First of all, never, in any case, see, call, or communicate in any way with my former best friend, Bill." "Of course, darling, I promise I'll never do that. And Pam, too. I won't be able to look her in the eye after that. Secondly, don't even try to touch me until I have time to think about it. No hugs, kisses, whatever. I'm going to sleep in the guest room until I can come to terms with it." "All right, dear. No matter how hard it is, because I love you so much," Ingrid sighed. "Yes, of course," Ben replied sarcastically, which caused Ingrid to sob. When she pulled herself together, Bill said something else. "Last night, lying in bed and unable to sleep because of you, I came up with something else. This will show you how much you've offended me." Ingrid looked at me expectantly. "Call Sally Danner and tell her that you have an event tonight that you can't help but go to, and ask if she can take your place." This struck a chord with Ingrid. Sally Danner was the only person she knew, not really a friend who always seemed to flirt with Ben when they were dating. She seemed to be constantly on the lookout, and she had a reputation for ruining more than one marriage. "Are you going to make love to her?" Ingrid asked cautiously. "Whatever happens, it's going to happen," Ben retorted. "No, please, darling, don't," Ingrid began, but Ben interrupted her. "So anything doesn't really mean anything, does it?" He spat, got up from his chair, and headed for the exit. Yes, anything," Ingrid pleaded, getting up and blocking Ben's way, although she was afraid to touch him. "Just tell me when." "Next Friday night. Call her before the kids get home," Ben demanded. After Ingrid pulled herself together, she finally called Sally Danner. Sally was a little taken aback by the call, but readily agreed. For the next week, Ben and Ingrid were wary of each other. They tried to behave well with the children, and because the children were small, they didn't seem to show any unusual concern. On Thursday evening, Ingrid plucked up the courage and said to Ben, "Ben, if you do make love to Sally, I hope you use contraceptives." "How did you and Bill do?" "Stop it," he barked. "Well, I'm asking because Bill wasn't sleeping with everyone and Sally was sleeping and, well, please don't demand anything from her." "Then go and buy me something," he replied. Ingrid went to the pharmacy and returned with a pack of 6 condoms. Ben and Sally went to spend the night at a hunting lodge about 30 miles away, where an event was actually held on Friday evening and early Saturday morning. Ben left with 6 condoms in a bag. When he returned late on Saturday morning, he left the package where Ingrid would surely have found it, with only 2 condoms. Ben didn't actually use Sally, but just put the other 4 in his suitcase. Ingrid was confused at first when she looked into the bag, but her mood improved when she emptied Ben's suitcase and found 4 missing condoms unused in Ben's luggage pocket. She smiled broadly and stifled joyful sobs. She decided to make amends to Ben and never be impulsive or refuse to communicate again. just to make sure she understood the situation correctly and that hopefully Ben wasn't using Sally without a rubber band, Ingrid called Janice. Janice was one of Ingrid's good friends and was also friends with Sally. Ingrid asked Janice to find out where Sally was on Friday and talk to her. Janice reported the incident on Sunday. "Did you know that she was at some evening event with your husband, Ingrid?" Janice asked when she called Ingrid on Sunday. "Yes, I couldn't go and asked Sally to go instead of me," Ingrid replied sheepishly. Not a very smart girl considering her inclinations. However, you will be happy and probably surprised to learn that despite Sally's best efforts, Ben did not make love to her on Friday night and even forced her to sleep in another room. She mourned this fact for 10 minutes. She asked me if I thought she was losing her grip, but then I reminded her that Ben is married and an honest man, Janice said. Ingrid felt greatly relieved and promised to redouble her efforts to make amends to Ben. On Wednesday the following week, Ingrid dutifully entered the guest room when the children were already in bed. "Ben, I know you said you wouldn't touch me until you were ready, but I just wanted you to know that I'm ready to do whatever you want to please you." Ben's eyes widened involuntarily when Ingrid took off her top to put herself on display. "What do I want?" "What is it?" he asked softly. "Anything," she replied, staring at him intently. "I'm using you a lot," he replied casually. The next night they slept together again in the master bedroom and readily made love. On Thursday of the following week, at the Hilton Hotel, when Ben slowly took off Pam's bra, she giggled. "Don't you ever feel like eating at lunch?" "I'll buy a quick burger or a chicken sandwich on the way back to my office." "You know you're a fucking genius," she giggled. "Well, I know," Ben replied, stuffing his mouth. "But why exactly did you say that?" "Well, your plan to throw a surprise party for Ingrid and Bill at the same hotel where I inadvertently used my credit card instead of cash a few months ago was great," she cooed, unbuckling Ben's belt. "Yeah, that was smart, wasn't it?" Ben laughed, starting to stroke Pam's ass and take off her skirt. "Besides, it made us think that we might make a mistake, so from now on we'll always leave our iPhones in the offices when we do our little group festivals, and now we'll only call each other from disposable phones," he chuckled. "You know, tomorrow marks 2 years since the day you first used me," Pam giggled. "I never thought we'd be able to do this twice a week and not get caught." "We almost got caught, but we are sure that we will not come close to it anymore. Ingrid is now so trusting and willing to please that we could make love in front of her, and she wouldn't believe that I was cheating, especially since I didn't use that cheating Sally when I had the chance," Ben laughed. "Now that we're not talking to Bill and Ingrid anymore, it's going to be a lot easier for us," Pam moaned. "Yeah, I won't be upset if I look up your skirt in front of others and want to knock you down on the table and use you," Ben giggled. "Oh, damn it," Pam groaned. "Oh shit, even after 2 years I feel better every time," she moaned. End.